Imagine a place where kings shaped nations, where revolutions began, and where world leaders gathered to decide the fate of millions. A place of absolute power, unimaginable luxury, and the setting for a treaty that reshaped the world after the bloodiest war in history. That place is Palace of Versailles. But how did this extravagant monument become a symbol of both royal splendor and global politics? Stick with us as we uncover the secrets of Versailles, from its golden halls to its role in one of the most important moments in modern history. It all started as something quite simple: a hunting lodge built in 1623 by King Louis XIII. Back then, it was nothing more than a peaceful retreat away from the political chaos of Paris. But everything changed when his son Louis XIV took over. In 1661, Louis XIV decided that Versailles would no longer be just a lodge. His vision was clear. He wanted a palace that reflected his ultimate power, not just over France, but all of Europe. And so began the transformation, a process that would take decades, turning this humble lodge into the largest and most magnificent palace in the world. Versailles grew into a sprawling complex of buildings and gardens, expanding from a small lodge to a monumental palace. By the time it was finished, it boasted over 700 rooms, 67 staircases, and over 2,300 windows. But the evolution of Versailles was not just about size. It was about the message. Designed by some of France's greatest architects, including Louis XIV and Jules Mansart, the palace symbolized control, order, and absolute power. Everything from its architecture to its layout was meant to reflect King Louis XIV's power and authority. The grandeur of the HallOfMirrors, stretching to 40 feet long, with 17 huge mirrors reflecting sunlight from the gardens, was designed to make sure that everyone, from diplomats to foreign dignitaries, understood one thing: this was the center of power. In 1682, Louis XIV made a decisive move that would cement Versailles' role in French history. He moved the royal court and with it the government away from Paris and into Versailles. This was not just about escaping the city's chaos. It was about controlling power and cementing his authority. By bringing the most influential nobles and politicians into his palace, the king ensured that he was the one pulling the strings. Versailles became not just a royal residence, but the very heart of French politics. It housed the king's council, government offices, and diplomatic meetings. The palace was a symbol of centralization, the power of the French state, concentrated in the hands of one man. Visitors from across Europe came here, and with every visit, they were reminded of France's strength. But power was not just reflected in the palace architecture. Step outside and you will find the gardens of Versailles, covering over 800 hectares. These gardens were not just decorative, they were another symbol of control. Everything was designed in precise geometrical patterns, showing that even nature itself could be tamed by the king's hand. Louis XIV's garden designer, André Lenotre, created one of the most spectacular landscapes in history. The centerpiece is the Grand Canal, stretching over 1.6 kilometers long. It was not just a pretty feature during royal festivals. This canal was the stage for elaborate naval battles, with real boats floating along its waters. The fountains of Versailles were equally impressive. Powered by a massive network of underground pipes and pumps, these were not just for show. They represented engineering brilliance. There are more than 50 fountains, with the largest, the Laterno fountain, symbolizing the king's divine right to rule. By the late 1700s, Versailles had come to symbolize something else: royal access and detachment from the people. The palace was lavish, but the French people were struggling. The enormous cost of maintaining Versailles had drained the country's finances, and resentment grew. In October 1789, during the height of the French Revolution, an angry mob marched on Versailles, forcing King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette to abandon the palace and return to Paris. It was a turning point. Versailles was no longer the center of power. It became a symbol of everything the revolution sought to overthrow. After the revolution, Versailles went through a period of decline. The palace furniture was sold off and it was largely abandoned, but its story was not over. By the mid-1800s, it became a museum dedicated to the glories of France, showcasing the country's rich history through art and architecture. However, Versailles' most significant role in modern history came in 1919. After World War I, in the very heart of the palace, the HallOfMirrors, world leaders gathered to sign the Treaty of Versailles. This treaty officially ended the war, but also laid the foundations for the geopolitical tensions that would later lead to the World War II. One of the key points of the treaty was the heavy reparations imposed on Germany. This moment, right here in the HallOfMirrors, marked the end of one global conflict. But some argue that it sowed the seeds for the next one. Today, Versailles is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the most visited monuments in the world, drawing millions of tourists every year. Its legacy is complex. It's a place of unimaginable beauty, architectural achievement, and historical significance. But it's also a reminder of the rise and fall of monarchies, revolutions, and the shifting tides of global politics. From its origins as a modest lodge to its transformation into the seat of royal power, and finally, its role in global diplomacy. After World War I, Versailles remains one of the most important buildings in history. That's a wrap on our journey through the Palace of Versailles, one of the world's most iconic and politically significant landmarks. What surprised you most about this incredible place? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more fascinating history stories from Ainy&Zany YouTube channel. See you next time.